Hello, today's devotional will be reading from Proverbs 27, just one verse, verse 17. Iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. 3.5 years ago, a few of the English service and youth preachers and leaders, we got together for a one-day kind of brainstorming session. And what we did is we essentially gave our best ideas, our methods and ways of prepping for sermons, for prepping for classes, for prepping maybe for group discussions. And we wanted to share with each other to basically distribute the knowledge that we had. What's the best way of doing it? What's the best way of finding materials and commentary? And we called that session Iron Sharpens Iron. And looking back at the document, I found it a few days ago. I was kind of surprised to find some of the things that I use now were items that people had shared in that session. And for the longest time, I assumed that I had found these resources myself. I thought I was the one who had discovered them, and I had been using them, over the course of a few years. But it actually turns out that those resources, they came from that session. And I find that kind of funny. I find it that I had forgotten where I had gotten that information. So reading through this passage, I'm again reminded of the importance of surrounding yourself with people who will help build your character, who will help build up your knowledge in a godly way. These relationships that we have, they help to build our relationship with God as well. The proverb is not very difficult to understand. Iron sharpens iron. If you surround yourself with mentally sharp individuals, you will become mentally sharp yourself. Iron sharpens iron. If you surround yourself with spiritually sharp individuals, then you will become spiritually sharp. It doesn't mean that you'll be as sharp as them necessarily. There's always going to be variances in who's gifted in a specific way, but you will grow. And that's why there's such an emphasis on surrounding yourself with people who will build you up and who you can build up as well through your perseverance, through your effort, through your whatever you might be doing. And it's interesting because it's only strong material that will sharpen iron. It's only strong material that will sharpen strong material. However, the thing is, it has to be applied in a wise manner. You can take a kitchen knife and you can take it out into the garage and start slicing and hammering away at the floor. And that won't sharpen it, even though concrete is fairly sharp. The knife is fairly sharp. There has to be wisdom in the way that that sharpening takes place. However, if we take a honing steel, it's that long stick that you have in your butcher block where all the knives go that you never seem to use. That's called a honing steel. And if you take your knife and you run the edge along that honing steel, the steel of that honing edge will hone your knife. It'll make it sharp. That is where that expression comes from. However, if we take the knife and we stab it into something soft, let's say you have some room in the backyard and you take your pristine kitchen knife and you shove it into the ground and you leave it there for a while, what will happen is that knife will be ruined. There's an important lesson to be learned here. The importance of both using the right material to sharpen, but also making sure that you're sharpening in the right way. Iron sharpens iron only if it is done with the intent and purpose of making it sharper. The people that you surround yourself with, the people who you interact with, they have a great deal of effect on you. You might be made of steel, you might be sharp, but if you go with friends who dull your senses, who dull your perspective of the world, you will become dull as them. If you surround yourself with individuals whose habits, whose pursuits, whose desires, whose preferences are those that don't align with the ones you have, you will be dulled, you will become like them. For those of you who don't surround yourself with good individuals, for a variety of reasons, you might not surround yourself with good people because you say, I grew up with these friends. They're the only friends that I've ever had. And yeah, they're not leading the type of life that I want to lead, but I have some allegiance to them, right? And the reality is, if you remain in those friendships, if you remain in those relationships, you will become like them. little by little, you will. And the thing is, I didn't remember. I didn't remember that that resource that I was using to prep for my sermons, that it came from that session 3.5 years ago. I didn't remember, but it had an effect on me. It had an effect in the way that I prepare my messages and the way that I look for resources. It was so ingrained into me, something that happened so long ago, something that I didn't even remember. And the same thing happens with us. The people we surround ourselves with, they will subconsciously, they will in a unnoticeable way impact the way that we look at the world, the way that we look at our situations. And we might think these ideas are my own, these ideas have come from me. But the reality is they've most likely come from them. A weird amalgam of your thoughts and their thoughts, your preferences and their preferences. And all of a sudden, you're not sharpening one another. You're not growing. You're not becoming better. And it's a gift from God that we're given to live lives that are different from anybody else. The reason why we can sharpen each other is because we live a unique life. Your life is unique from mine and from anybody else's. There might be similarities and there might be differences, but it is unique to you. And when you come to a place, if you come and surround yourself with people who say, I want you to speak into my life and to contribute into my life, then you know that those people will sharpen you. But at the same time, you'll be able to sharpen them. So it's a gift from God that we have been given to have a unique life, to have a unique perspective. We have our strengths and we have the things that we can sharpen others on. So in this coming week, I encourage you, sharpen one another. And if you have friends, if you have relationships that aren't doing that, get rid of them so that you don't end up being dull like them. Take care and God bless. I'll see you next week.